Ju-on Origins is a brand new Netflix original series, obviously part of the Ju-on franchise. This is like one of, oh my God, so many entries in this franchise at this point. There are so many. And this TV series, for me anyway, came out of absolutely nowhere. I had no idea it was being made. Netflix just drops a trailer, and this show premieres like a couple weeks later. And I was like, oh, I guess there's going to be a Ju-on television series, as is there going to be a Chucky television series, which I did know was happening, but they dropped a trailer for that very recently. So I love this whole idea of taking horror franchises and making it into television series. There's plenty of horror franchises that I would love to see on the small screen. So, yeah, keep on making these. Now, if you guys have followed the channel, you know that I'm not a fan of the Ju-on series. I've tried watching them, they just don't do it for me. I don't even like the American ones very much. So, in fact, most J horror, Japanese horror, doesn't work for me. There's something about it. There's a very specific style to these kinds of movies and the scare tactics and the storytelling. Just not a big fan of the Japanese horror as a whole. So I went into this one very hesitant, although these episodes are fairly short and there's only 6 of them. So I think they're like 30 minutes apiece and there's only 6 of them. So the whole thing is like 3 hours long or so. So it's not very long for a television series. So I went into this with very low expectations because obviously not being a very big fan of the franchise. And I'll definitely say this. This is for sure for me. This is easily the best thing that the Ju-on franchise has ever done. For me. Now that's blasphemy to some people. Some people love the original and the second one, whatever. That's awesome. Good. But I don't care for those, and I actually quite enjoyed this. The only thing, now I think this is something that could be rectified in multiple viewings, is that this felt extremely like confusing at times. Like I was like, because it jumps all over the place. So what it's about is there's a guy who grew up in this house as a kid, and now he's a writer. And he had some siblings die, go missing while they were living at the house, and now he's investigating them through his book. He writes these paranormal type books, whatever. And so he's going around and he's getting in contact with a bunch of people who have affiliation with this house, and he's interviewing them. And there's so many characters and there's so many different timelines going on at once, and they jump back and forth. And I was just like, wait, who's this connected to what and that and huh? But that being said, there's a lot good going on here. Like there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on here, and there's some really dark stuff, and there's some really screwed up moments in this that I was like, all right, that was cool. This is eerie. This is sweet. So I had a good time, and this is something I actually think I want to go back and rewatch. Like really kind of figure out who's who and what's what, because I think the first viewing I was just trying to soak it all up and trying to like remember, and I broke it up a decent amount too, where like I watched an episode here, 2 episodes there. I probably watched it over the span of a week and a half or 2, somewhere like that. I don't know how long it's been out for, but as long as it's been out for. I started it like the day it came out, and I just finished it last night. So like a week and a half, something like that, maybe even 2 weeks. But that wasn't because I wasn't into it. It was just because I was watching too much stuff. And the first 3 episodes, I didn't dislike. I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. This has got me more engaged than any other Ju-on thing ever has. And then episode 4 came around, and episode 4 through 6, and I want to say especially 4, really got me like into it. Like I was like, oh, that was a great episode. That was really fucked up. So I was like, all right, I dig this. I can get on board with this. We do more of that, then I'm all about it. So episode 4 on kind of picked up more. But I think if I was to go back and I was to really pay attention to like every single character and figure out like how they connect to what, and how this is an origin story, even though this doesn't really tackle the origins, like the 50s story that connects everything together, that is really the curse. This is more of like the accumulation of spirits within the Grudge House before the events of the other films. So you get like an additional amount of characters that are haunting the house, because essentially anyone who goes in that house becomes cursed, and then anybody within close vicinity that they have like a relationship with or interact with a good amount, they start to become affected by the curse. And they don't just deal with ghosts and stuff in here. They have a serial killer that's like killing little kids in here and shit. So this is a pretty eclectic series with some variety within it. So this, as I said, this by far is the most interesting, best fucked up thing that I've seen in the Ju-on franchise. If the first movie was more like this one, because now does this feel like a Ju-on series? You get the house back, which the house I think has been used in every damn one of these at this point, except for the Grudge 3, the American version. I don't think we see the house in that one. That's like in an apartment building or something. Maybe we see it at the beginning. I don't know if we do or not. Doesn't matter. But this house, I mean, this must just be a set house at this point where they're just like, keep it around just to film the Grudge in it, because it looks exactly the same every damn time in every movie, whether it's the American ones, the Japanese ones, doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of the franchise, I really honestly can't speak for you guys. I don't know. Like, I'll be curious on what fans of the franchise think of this. Like, if there are diehard Ju-on fans out there that are all about this series and they watch this, I'll be very curious on their opinions on it, because they're going to have a much different take on it. They're going to understand every connectivity piece. I'm sure that there's no continuity to any of this shit, and they just kind of throw it out there. And you kind of just got to fill in your own headcanon, take what you want and leave the rest. I don't know. A lot of horror franchises are like that, but I like this. I dig this. I think even if you're not a fan of the Ju-on franchise, this might appeal to you. So it's worth a watch. I know most people want to shut things off after like an episode, but I think after episode 4, especially if you're not into it by the end of episode 4, if like nothing's getting going for you, although you're already like 2/3 of the way in, so you might as well finish it. That's why I'm saying like it's hard to say like, well, you should at least watch the first 4 episodes. That's almost the entire show, but I think that's really where it lands, more so than ever. But a rewatch will definitely help. So hopefully I can get on that soon. I always say that, but then I never end up doing it because I have too many damn things to watch. So I don't know. Anyways, what did you guys think about this one? Any Ju-on fanatics out there? I know Dave Z from Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast is an enormous fan. Like, this is like one of his favorite franchises of all time. So I'll be very curious on his thoughts on this, and I'm actually going to contact him about that maybe as soon as I press stop, which I'm going to do right now.